That night at Madison Square Garden, Ace Frehley walked to the edge of the stage, looked down, and saw nothing where there should have been someone. He froze. The concert was halfway through. 20,000 people screaming. Stage lights cutting through the smoke. Gene on bass. Paul hitting high notes. Peter's drums thundering behind them. Kiss in full flight, the spectacle, the fire, the theater of it all. Ace was in the middle of his solo section. Shock me. His moment. The Space Ace showcase where the guitar did the talking and everything else fell away. His fingers moved across the fretboard with practiced precision. Eyes closed for the first part, muscle memory, the notes, flowing without thought. Then he opened them, the way he always did during the bridge, scanning the crowd the way he'd done for 15 years. Looking for one face. Front row. Center section. Always the same seat. Always the same person. Except tonight, the seat was empty. Ace's fingers slowed. Not a mistake exactly, the notes were still there, but something in the rhythm changed. His eyes stayed locked on that empty space. The vacant seat surrounded by thousands of screaming fans, a small void in the mass of humanity. Gene noticed first. Turned his head mid-riff, caught the shift in Ace's playing. Paul glanced over, still singing but his eyes questioning. Peter kept the beat but leaned forward slightly on his drum riser, trying to see what Ace was seeing. Ace lowered his guitar. Not dramatically. Just stopped playing. His hand fell to his side, the Les Paul hanging from its strap, silent. The band kept going for 3 more bars before realizing. Gene's bass faded. Paul's vocals trailed off. Peter hit one last cymbal and let it ring out into silence. 20,000 people fell quiet. Ace stood at the edge of the stage, staring down at that empty seat. Ace didn't defend himself. He never did. To understand what happened next, you need to understand what happened 15 years earlier. 1964. The Bronx. Ace Frehley wasn't Ace Frehley yet. He was Paul Daniel Frehley, 18 years old, working in a record store on Fordham Road and playing guitar in whatever bands would have him on weekends. He wasn't the best guitarist in New York. He knew that. There were guys with better technique, cleaner playing, more theory knowledge. But Ace had something else. An instinct for the right note at the right time. He didn't think about music. He felt it. The record store was owned by a man named Sal Vecchio. Old school. Vinyl purist. The kind of guy who would kick you out if you asked for anything recorded after 1959. The store barely made money, but Sal didn't care. It was about the music, he'd say. Always about the music. Sal's daughter Maria worked there too. She was Ace's age, dark hair, quiet in a way that made people underestimate her. She handled the books, the inventory, the business side that Sal couldn't be bothered with. She also played piano. Classically trained. Could read any piece of sheet music you put in front of her. But she loved rock and roll the way her father loved jazz, secretly, guiltily, knowing it drove her parents crazy. Ace would stay after his shifts, sitting in the back room with his guitar, working through riffs and progressions. Maria would close out the register and then drift back, sitting at Sal's old upright piano that hadn't been tuned in a decade. They didn't talk much. Just played. She'd start something, maybe a Bach piece, maybe a Jerry Lee Lewis riff, and Ace would find a way to weave around it with his guitar. Hours would pass. The store would go dark. Sal would lock up and leave them there, shaking his head but smiling. "You're good," Maria told him one night. It was the first real conversation they'd had in 3 months of playing together. "You're better," Ace said. "I can read music. That's not the same thing. You hear things. Things that aren't written down." Ace shrugged. He'd never thought about it that way. "My father wants me to go to Juilliard," Maria said, her fingers still moving on the piano keys. "Full scholarship. Classical performance. You should go. I don't want to play what other people wrote. I want to." She trailed off, frustrated. "I want to play what I hear." Like you do. A week later, Maria came to watch Ace play at a small club in Queens. His band at the time was terrible. The bassist couldn't keep time, the singer was drunk, the drummer kept rushing, but Ace's guitar cut through it all. Clean. Confident. Right. After the show, she waited while he packed his gear. "You're wasting your time," she said. "Thanks," Ace replied, not looking up. "Not the guitar. I mean these bands. These guys don't hear what you hear. You need people who understand." "Yeah, well, those people don't need a guitar player from the Bronx." "They will." Maria started coming to every show. Front row when there was a front row. Standing in the back when there wasn't. Ace never asked her to come. She just showed up. After a while, he started looking for her before he played, scanning the crowd, finding her face, and then everything else would fall into place. She was there when his first real band fell apart. There when a bar owner told him he'd never make it as a session player. There when he auditioned for bands who said his style was too raw, or not commercial enough. She never said much. Just showed up. Listened. Stayed. In 1972, Ace auditioned for a band being put together by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. They were calling it Kiss. The audition was in a rehearsal space in Manhattan. Gene asked Ace to play something. Ace played 6 notes. Gene and Paul looked at each other. "Can you do that with makeup on?" Gene asked. "I can do that with my eyes closed," Ace said. He got the gig. Maria was the first person he told. She was closing up her father's record store. Sal had died the year before, and she'd kept it running even though it was bleeding money. "I'm gonna be in a band," Ace said. "A real one. They've got a vision. Costumes. Makeup. The whole thing." "Good," Maria said. "You should be. Will you come? To the shows?" She smiled. "Front row. Always." Subscribe and leave a comment, because some moments only make sense when we remember them together. For 15 years, Maria kept that promise. She was there at the Coventry in Queens when Kiss played to 11 people. There at the Academy of Music when they opened for Blue Oyster Cult. There at Madison Square Garden the first time they headlined, and Ace looked down from that massive stage and found her in the front row, exactly where she'd always been. She never missed a New York show. Not one. Ace never asked her to come, never mentioned it, but his eyes always found her before the first note. A small nod? Nothing dramatic. Just acknowledgement. Maria kept her father's record store going even as the neighborhood changed, even as chain stores moved in, even as vinyl gave way to cassettes. She never married. Never left the Bronx. Just ran the store and showed up for Ace's shows. The band teased him about it sometimes. "Your lucky charm," Paul would say. Gene called her the silent partner. Peter just smiled whenever he saw Ace scanning the crowd before a show. Ace never explained. Didn't need to. She was just there. The continuity. The reminder of when it was just him and a guitar, and someone who believed he heard things other people didn't. But tonight, January 17th, 1979, that front row seat was empty. Ace stood at the edge of the stage, guitar silent, staring at the void. The crowd didn't understand. 20,000 people confused, murmuring, wondering if something was wrong with the sound system. If this was part of the show. Gene walked over. Leaned close. "Ace. What's going on?" Ace didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on that empty seat. Paul joined them. "Talk to us, man." "What happened?" "She's not here," Ace said quietly. Gene and Paul looked at each other. They knew who he meant. "Maybe she's just..." Paul started. "She's never missed a show," Ace said. His voice was flat. Emotionless. 15 years. Never once. A stagehand appeared at the side of the stage, waving urgently. Paul walked over, listened, and his face changed. He came back to where Ace and Gene stood. There's someone backstage needs to talk to you, Paul said carefully. It's about Maria. Ace finally moved. He pulled the guitar strap over his head, handed the Les Paul to a tech without looking, and walked off stage. The crowd erupted in confused applause. Gene grabbed the microphone. We're gonna take 5 minutes, folks. Hang tight. Away from the spotlight, Ace made a choice no one expected. Backstage, in the harsh fluorescent light of the corridor, stood a young woman Ace had never seen before. Early 20s. Dark hair like Maria's. She was holding a small envelope. Mr. Frehley, she said. Her voice shook. I'm Teresa. Maria's niece. Ace stopped. Something in his chest tightened. My aunt, she wanted me to give you this. She made me promise. If she ever couldn't make it to a show, I had to bring it to you. Right away. She held out the envelope. Ace took it. Turned it over. His name written in Maria's handwriting. He opened it there in the hallway, roadies rushing past, the muffled sound of the restless crowd bleeding through the walls. Inside was a single piece of paper. Maria's handwriting, the same careful script he remembered from inventory sheets at the record store 20 years ago. Ace. If you're reading this, I'm not in my seat. I'm sorry. I tried to make it. Don't stop playing. Not for me. Not for anyone. You hear things other people don't. That's your gift. That's what I heard in Sal's back room when we were kids. That's what I've heard every time you've played since. The empty seat doesn't change that. You don't play for me. You never did. You play because you have to. Because those notes in your head need to get out. So go back out there. Close your eyes. And play what you hear. I'll be listening. I promise. Ace read it twice. Then carefully folded it and put it in his pocket. He looked at Teresa. Your aunt. Where is she? Teresa's eyes filled with tears. St. Barnabas Hospital. She collapsed yesterday. The doctors they don't think she has much time. She made me swear not to tell you until after the show. She didn't want you to stop playing. Ace nodded slowly. Thank you for bringing this. He turned and walked back toward the stage. Gene caught him in the wings. Ace, man, what's going on? We can cancel. We can. No, Ace said. His voice was quiet but certain. We play. He picked up his Les Paul. Checked the tuning. Adjusted the strap. Paul appeared on his other side. Are you sure? Because we can. She said to play. Ace said simply. So I'm playing. He walked back onto the stage. The crowd erupted. Confused relief, not understanding what had happened but glad the show was continuing. Ace plugged in his guitar. Looked at that empty front row seat one more time. Then he closed his eyes. What followed silenced everyone in the room. He didn't announce anything. Didn't explain. Just started playing. Not. Shocked me. Not the song he'd been playing when he stopped. Something else. Something he'd never played on stage before. A melody he remembered from the back room of Sal's record store. The progression Maria used to play on that old out-of-tune piano while he found harmonies on his guitar. The sound of two kids who didn't talk much but understood each other perfectly through music. The band didn't know the song. They'd never heard it. But they followed him anyway, Gene finding the bass line, Paul humming along, Peter keeping simple time. Letting Ace lead. The song was slow. Melancholy. Beautiful in a way that Kiss didn't usually do. No fire. No pyrotechnics. Just Ace and his guitar, playing something that came from somewhere deeper than showmanship. The crowd fell silent. 20,000 people who'd come for spectacle suddenly bearing witness to something else entirely. Something real. When the last note faded, no one moved. The silence held for 3 seconds. Then the applause came, not the screaming chaos of a rock show, but something quieter. Respectful. Like they understood they'd heard something private. Ace opened his eyes. looked at the empty seat one last time, nodded slightly. Then he launched into rock and roll all night, and the show continued. After the concert, Ace went straight to St. Barnabas Hospital. Still in makeup. Still in costume. He sat beside Maria's bed and played that melody on an acoustic guitar a nurse found for him. Maria never opened her eyes. But her hand moved slightly, keeping time. She died 3 hours later. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. Ace Frehley kept that letter in his guitar case for the next 40 years. The front row center seat at Madison Square Garden was left empty, just once more, at his request, at his final New York show in 2018. He never explained why. He didn't need to. Real power isn't in the words. It's in the notes you play when everyone else falls silent.